Thank you, Beth. You're going to have to run through this. Go ahead and move to the next slide. This is me. We'll leave it here for just a second. If you want to record my email in case you have questions for me, I will be happy to answer questions. And I can answer them not just about Travel Montana, which is our newest brand, but also about Zephyr Adventures and Taste Vacations. Zephyr Adventures is a company that I started 25 years ago, and it runs active tours around the world. We do bicycling in Italy and hiking on the Inca Trail and an active wine vacation in Chile and Argentina or New Zealand. So we do all kinds of things. Taste Vacations specifically promotes tours that are focused on wine, food, and craft beer around the world. So we run beer tours in Belgium, wine tours in Bordeaux and Chile and Argentina, and food tours in Peru. So we've got a bunch of different locations, and we do all of these. We actually have a wine tour webinar coming up that Beth will put in a link after this to everybody. In fact, she'll put it in right now. So if you're not signed up for that, it's about different destinations in the U.S. other than Napa. So feel free to join that as well. Go ahead, Beth. If you can move us forward on the slide. So these are the goals for today. First off, we want to present Montana and Yellowstone as a destination to all of you. You're on this webinar, so you're interested in this already. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, and you can get a lot of this from our website. We're also going to meet two travel agents, Rita and Allie, who worked with us, who we worked with last year to run tours. And we wanted them to briefly, we'll just 5 minutes apiece, talk to you about their experiences in Montana, because Rita actually went herself, and working with us. And then we're going to talk about what's new in Montana, Yellowstone, and Glacier. And then we'll move on to how you can plan a Montana vacation. So this is critical. We're experts at this. And what we want to do is pass information to you that you can use without us to plan vacations for your clients. But then at the end, we'll also switch over and talk about why we think you actually have some incentives to work with us when you do have a client interested in our region of the world. So Beth, go ahead and switch over. Next one. This is the Beartooth Mountains. This is right above Red Lodge, Montana. This is a super scenic area of the world. We are based in Red Lodge, Montana. It is a very cute small town of 2,300 people in Montana. And the Beartooth Pass is a famous highway, national scenic highway that goes up and over. And this view, I believe, is taken from the pass as well. So it gives you a sense of Montana. Go ahead, Beth. On our website, we do talk about Montana quite a bit, but I wanted to briefly go through some of these reasons why we think it is such a special place. First of all, it's got Yellowstone and Glacier National Parks. Yellowstone is the best national park in the world. And that's a big statement. And everybody has their opinion. I've been to a lot of national parks around the world. I've been to a lot of countries around the world. This is an amazing one. It's got everything. It's got the wildlife. It's got the geothermal features. It's got the natural open spaces. So it really has a lot. Glacier National Park is the #1 hiking national park in the country, we think, but it's also been voted by the Backpacker magazine readers the same. We've got 97 mountain ranges, 3,000 lakes, miles of rivers, huge outdoor spaces. This is a good one when people ask, why is everyone wanting to go to Montana? It's popular, but it's popular in part because there aren't very many people here. We only have 7 people per square mile on average. And that is an amazing appeal all the time, but especially during a pandemic. We have a lot of Native American lands and Native American tribes that provide some interesting culture. We've got a great Wild West history. We have a ton of wildlife, including grizzly bear, mountain lion, and wolves, 3 species that most states do not have. We have really cute small towns like Red Lodge, like Whitefish, Montana, which is the base for Glacier. We've got 8 great primary airports that are uncrowded and so pleasant to fly into and fly out of. We have a great variety of outdoor activities. You can do pretty much everything except for ocean activities in Montana. And so altogether, we think this is truly one of the top outdoor destinations worldwide. And again, I've been doing this for 25 years, running trips around the world, so I don't say that lightly. Go ahead, Beth. And then if you can quickly, don't bring in Rita yet. I just wanted to talk about Rita and then also Allie. Rita is the owner of Worldwide Travel. She brought last year 2 groups to us. One was a 15-member family, and they did an 11-day tour through Montana. And then the second was her own family's vacation with 10 members. And so Rita actually came with us. And then Beth, next slide if you can. Allie Willits is also going to join us for a brief 5 minutes apiece. And she's a traveler counselor at Off to Neverland Travel in Florida. And she brought 2 groups, one last year of 4 family members, which is typical for us, a smaller group like that, to Jackson and Grand Teton National Park. And then this year, an 11-person private tour for a family in the best of Yellowstone. So go ahead and bring in Rita, Beth, if you can, and stop sharing. So Rita will be joining us shortly, and I just wanted to sort of introduce her by saying that Rita and hi Rita, welcome. Say something again, Rita.
Hello.
Rita and I worked together because she came to us last year in a bit of a crisis situation because of COVID, right? Rita, can you explain that with your private group that you brought to us?
Sure. They were a family of 15 that were supposed to go to Europe. The trip was canceled. So I think, and you might help me on this, I think I had maybe 5 weeks or a month to plan a complete group for 15 and a little upscale. So we had to do everything private and a private tour. So it was, you guys came through and they loved it.
Well, that's great. Yeah, we had very little time because the cruise was canceled late. And what was their experience from what they gave you in feedback in terms of Montana? Did you hear any highlights or areas they especially liked?
Well, yeah, they liked it all. So much so that one of their family members is thinking about maybe coming out there and buying like a vacation property somewhere in Montana. So they loved it. As far as Zephyr's part of it, they would be your best ambassador, in all 15 of them. And it was hard. I think you guys came through because of the college kids. We had college kids and teenagers, and there were like 9 of them, to keep them active, and they loved it. They probably didn't even stay on their phones very much, which was huge for the family, for them to do that, and the kids.
That's right. And that was a big, it was part of the puzzle to put together, was that we had a great variety of age ranges and activity levels on that tour, right?
Right. The thing they liked most about it is that you gave them options where the adults could do something, the kids could go bicycling or jumping or, hang gliding, whatever they chose to do, fishing, and the adults didn't have to do it. So not everyone did the same thing, which to them was a plus, particularly for the college age kids.
And they came with us on a relatively lengthy tour and did what we call a Best of Montana tour. They did visit Glacier and Yellowstone and areas in between. That was a custom tour that we can do when we have a bit larger group like that. And then Rita, you came with us on your own family's family vacation as well, correct?
Right. Yeah, and for ours, we found you just by searching for Montana. And my group was a little different because my grandchildren were like 5 and 6 and 16 and 13. So for you guys to find something for that age group, and I also did a private because there were 10 of us, And the little kids loved it, and the teenagers did also. So that worked out really well. We did take your family vacation and customize it a little bit for our family, which was absolutely no problem.
And what were the activities you did on that family vacation? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, we spent the first night in the horse farm.
Yes,
and that kind of changed around a lot because of the fires out there. But that, even though I will never get on a horse again in my life, it was great. The kids loved it. We did horseback riding. Some of us did it one day. The rest of them did it for 2 days. And the family who hosted us with the meals and cooking out, sleeping in tents, was great. And one of my daughters really wasn't in favor of sleeping in a tent, but it worked out really well. And they loved that. And then the rafting, it was good for the little kids. The older kids didn't mind the slow pace of the rafting. And then we had a couple of days on our own that the guides gave us suggestions. But I'll tell you, we stayed the whole time in Red Lodge. I was most impressed with Red Lodge restaurant choices.
Yes.
To be a town so small, the food was ridiculously good. And we all gained weight. Hanging out with you guys.
It is amazing. It is amazing that our hometown has that many restaurant choices. And the reason is we've got a ski resort, so we get visitors in the winter, and we are on the path to Yellowstone, so we get visitors in the summer. And so we're over-serviced for our town size. Yes. It's great.
It's great. It's great for visitors, the variety that you have there.
Great, Rita. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add to your fellow agents out here that are listening to you?
Sure. It's very easy to book with Travel Montana or Zephyr, from my experience, because some of us know that sometimes you can't get any answers to any questions. They don't want to customize and charge, or they will, but they charge you so much more to customize. And I didn't find this, for me asking for things for my own family. And Al and I both know my larger family group, we had some stuff with that because they wanted a little more upscale than maybe was available. And you guys came through with giving that family exactly what they wanted. So they were extremely happy, and, they're willing to go again. So to me, that's a plus when you have a client and myself who would easily use you guys again with no problem.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Rita. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Beth, if you can bring in Allie then. And as we're doing that, I just wanted to say that Rita mentioned public tours versus private tours. We do offer public tours. We actually have a public Montana family tour that we were running last summer, and Rita could have joined that, but because of her group size, she didn't. I should tell people that I have an 8-year-old daughter, and she and I went on our own Montana family tour. So when Rita says she was impressed that we could handle kids who are 4 or 5, my daughter has been going on our tour since age 4. So we're very in tune with that. Allie, thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How are you doing today?
Doing great. Sunny day in Florida.
And you've got kids too, right?
I do. I have an 11-year-old daughter.
Okay, great. And Allie, tell us, you brought a family group of 4 to our region of the world last year. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. I had one of my high-end clients reached out to me wanting to go to Jackson, wanting to go to Yellowstone. And to be honest, it was completely out of my wheelhouse to try to plan something like that. A lot of my business is Disney destinations, cruises, all-inclusives, that kind of thing. So when she reached out to me, I'd actually been on a webinar that you did, Allan, back in March of 2020, and just really liked the option that the company was small, friendly, it seemed easy to work with. And it really was. And when my client reached out to me, I was like, you know what? I think I know exactly who to call. And it worked out perfectly. I gave a call to Chris. She was like talking to a friend. I mean, it was so easy. And this client wanted some very specific things. They wanted, their daughters are very active. they wanted to be able to stay in some upscale, places, and it worked out absolutely perfectly. They came back raving about the trip. Actually, I'd sent their guide was their biggest. Kim was their guide, and Patty came back telling me that she was so amazing. She was so knowledgeable that she gives her 11 out of 10 stars.
Nice.
And they were pleased with the whole thing. It was seamless and so easy to work with you guys.
And so we are a small company, right? There are only 4 of us that are running the tours. I mean, we have guides, but in the office, there are only 4 of us. And so, yes, if you call us up, you're going to get one of the 4 of us, and we can all basically answer the questions. And usually we assign one person to a travel agent who actually has a group ready to come. Is that process good for you? Did that work? We don't have any formal process of, here you have to fill out this form or anything like that.
It was great. Chris was Johnny on the spot. I mean, I let her know what my clients wanted. I was kind of like a middleman, letting her know, this is what my clients are looking for. She was easy to talk to, always available, either via phone or email. And it was nice because it's not a call center. I'm talking to the same person. They completely personalized the trip for my clients. And I mean, it was a win-win because I don't know about Montana personally. I've never been. It's on our list. You're going to see us, my family, probably next summer. But it was perfect because I look like an expert because I hooked her up with a great company who took good care of her. And you guys really were fantastic to work with and easy. And there was no sitting on hold for hours like most of us have been doing a lot lately.
Well, that's great. And you have another group then coming this year that's already booked too, right?
I do. I had a repeat client reach out to me asking about dude ranches in Montana, which again, totally out of my wheelhouse. And I pulled up your website and I sent her the itinerary because they have little children for the family trip, the family Yellowstone vacation. Said, what about a guided, tour where you have a private guide where you can keep the kids occupied and still do all the things you want to do? And they loved it. And we tweaked it a little bit because some of the family members had different wants and needs. And now I'm working with Kelly, who has, again, been fantastic, found lodging for the family that we were a little concerned that one family member might not want to stay. They didn't want to change a bunch of resorts. And again, simple to work with, easy. Kelly answers all the questions. I mean, I very happy that I was on that webinar, or I would have never known.
Excellent. That's great. Well, we appreciate that. We appreciate you saying such kind words about us, Allie.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add?
It's fantastic when we can look like an expert on a place that we're not an expert on because we have the right suppliers that we trust, that we work with. And I know I've been in the industry almost 10 years now, and it's really nice to have a small company that you can trust your clients' vacation with and their vacation investments with. And so I just highly recommend you guys.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Beth, I'm going to have you screen share again. And let me just say that when Allie's talking about working with us like that, we do the same thing with our other 2 brands, Zephyr Adventures. So if you have anybody looking for active tours, we can do those. And also with Taste Vacations. So that probably is even more common for some of you, people coming and saying, hey, we want to do a wine vacation. All right, so Beth, go ahead and move on. What's new in Montana? We're going to talk about 4 things: COVID, Montana, Yellowstone, and Glacier. First up is COVID. There's not a lot happening about COVID in Montana because it's there, as it is everywhere, and it's on the decline right now, thankfully. It was pretty bad in January, and interestingly, it's, of course, a state that is wide open, and that is also affecting its COVID policies. There are no policies. There are no restrictions, essentially, in Montana whatsoever. However, the national parks do require masks indoors, and they say in outdoor areas where you can't socially distance yourself. So that is something to be aware of. We wanted to let you know this so that you can pass that on to your clients. We, as a company, are much more conservative than the state of Montana is with COVID. However, on our public tours, where we're putting people in who don't know each other and joining them with a guide, we require full vaccination. At this point, full vaccination means 2 doses. It does not mean the booster unless that definition changes. We can't really run tours confidently without requiring that. And it has not been an issue for us at all. Last year, we allowed negative PCR tests in lieu of full vaccination. We had nobody all year long on a public tour do that. So people going on public tours recognize that this is part of the game, I think. For private tours, it's different. We would require either vaccination or a negative PCR test. And it's the same thing. We're bringing people, and yes, it might be one family together, but they are going to be in a vehicle with a guide. So we do the same requirement with our guide. And we do want you to know that. We haven't had any issues with that either. We have had groups who tell us they're not vaccinated, and we give them this, and they say, okay. So it's pretty standard nowadays. Next in what's new is what's going on with Montana in general. So Montana was hot in 2020 and in 2021, thanks to the pandemic. We think Montana is a great state to visit anytime, but it is especially hot now. And this is obviously because people wanted to get outside and to go to places that weren't crowded, and that is Montana. So we had record visitation to state parks in Montana. Much of this visitation, however, does come from state residents. Those are the people visiting state parks, because a lot of times visitors from outside the state are going to other parks, the national parks. Because of this higher visitation trend, there is a focus in the industry now on sustainability. Entities are talking about recreating responsibly, leaving no trace, all of that. So, that's a good thing to do anytime, but it has picked up in recent years, and it's something to be aware of. There's also a focus on less visited areas. So everybody wants to go to Yellowstone and to Glacier National Park, and that makes those areas crowded at certain times of the year in certain areas of the park, and we'll talk about that later. But that means that the tourism industry is focusing on going to less visited areas. You just heard Rita talk about the restaurants in Red Lodge, Montana. Many of you have never heard of Red Lodge, Montana, and here she is extolling the restaurant scene there. And I showed you the picture of the Beartooths right above it. So there are great places to go in Montana that aren't in Glacier and Yellowstone. And it's important to keep in mind for your potential customers. Next is what's new in Yellowstone. And this is Yellowstone National Park, obviously famous for its geothermal features like this, and we love it because of that. So what's new in Yellowstone is that it's the 150th anniversary in 2022. I think the date is March 1st or March 31st, when it was officially founded by Teddy Roosevelt. That's pretty cool. Is that going to increase visitation? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But it certainly gives people something to latch on to if they're interested in Yellowstone. We had 4.9 million visitors last year. It was the busiest year on record. We hit visitation records in Yellowstone in May, June, July, August, and September. Sounds awful in some ways, right? It's popular, but we don't want it to be that popular. However, what is misleading in the news reports is that the statistics count everybody who comes into the park, and they don't distinguish between first or second entries into the park by the same people, because we had lodging closed in the park last year due to COVID, there were a lot more people staying outside the park and entering in multiple times. So yes, it was crowded. Yes, it was busy, but it's not as bad perhaps as what the statistics seem to tell you. We had a major construction project in the park last year. It blocked off an entire road that connected the park. The park is kind of in a figure 8 in terms of drivable paved roads, and the grand loop is really 2 grand loops, and one of that loops, the northern loop, was closed off in one section, and that increased the hassle of visiting. That's going to be done supposedly in May, so that's good news. They've also added 3 more campgrounds to advance reservations. That's important. It is interesting to go to Yellowstone without any lodging reservations at all, and if you're camping, you have to get up very early and rip to the next campground and get a spot from the people who are leaving. And if you don't get it, you're out of luck and you got to move on to another campground. So having advanced reservations is the reality of where we are today. All the in-park lodging and restaurants are expected to be open. Some of the restaurants will have limited hours, not because of COVID itself, but because of staff shortages. But everything is supposed to be open, which is nice. So that's Yellowstone. What's new with Glacier? And Glacier National Park, as I said, is a hiking park. It is a glacier park. We'll go over a little bit of this when we come to planning, but these are 2 major reasons to visit Glacier National Park: for your hikers and for people that want to see a glacier that are disappearing. And if you go onto our website, you can search for that and find a blog post I wrote about the disappearing glaciers. So what's new with Glacier? 2021 was the 2nd highest ever in terms of visitor numbers. And I think in part of that is because of a restriction that they had in place. Interestingly, we have to keep in mind that 2021 and 2020 also had essentially no foreign visitors. Usually, Yellowstone is a highly popular place for foreign visitors. What that means for 2022, we don't know yet, really. But my guess is the popularity will go down with domestic travelers who are now feeling confident about going abroad again. And it will go up again with the foreign travelers. Last year, there was a vehicle registration requirement for the very famous Going to the Sun Road. That's the paved road that winds its way up and over the mountains down to the other side of the park. Everybody wants to go on that road because it's beautiful, because it gets you to great hikes, because it gets you to the other side of the park. They now require vehicle registrations in advance. You can book those starting in this month for the summer period. There are some that are available day of or the day before, but in general, if you are planning anybody to go to Glacier, you need to plan in this drive over the Going to the Sun Road. That's important to know. And Whitefish, which is the key main town right outside Glacier, which is a fantastic small town, as nice as Red Lodge, has been busy because of its location. We're planning now fewer trips based in Whitefish and more based in other areas of the state because of that. So that's sort of what's new going on with Montana, Yellowstone, and Glacier. Beth, if you could switch it forward for me, please. And this is a nice shot of the park. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how you can plan a trip to Montana, Yellowstone, and Glacier National Park. On our website, if you go to our website, travelmontana.com, and click on any of the interior pages so that you'll see the menu that pops up, you'll see a planning guides menu item. And if you hover over that, you'll see that we have planning guides for Montana, Yellowstone, and Glacier National Park. These are designed for anybody to plan their trips to our region of the world without us. they're also designed for you. And so Allie and Rita were talking about, being the experts, and all you need to do is go onto our website and read these 3 planning guides, and you will be the expert as compared to most of your customers, your clients. But I do want to go through a little bit of the highlights of those guides, and the next slide I'll do that. But for the details, you'll be able to do that. The next slide is actually wolf watching in Yellowstone. We're throwing in a few of these pictures to give you a sense, but wolf watching in Yellowstone is one of the hottest things happening in Yellowstone and in all of Montana. If you're not familiar with this, it's a huge story. They did a reintroduction of wolves into Montana, into Idaho, into Yellowstone back in 1995. So it's been 25 years now, and it is the most amazing thing. We are running quite a few wolf tours, and we have some wolf biologists that run these for us, or at least the experts on them that our guides run. And it's fascinating. It's worth going on our website and reading about the wolf tours as well. So, but Beth, go ahead and move forward. Helping your clients. This is part of your ability to deal with clients that you want to help with. Your first decision is, are they going to go to a national park or not? Most are going to want to go to a national park, but it's a specific part of the vacation, and it can take up the vacation. And you don't necessarily want to bring them to both Yellowstone and Glacier because they are a significant drive apart. So you've got 2 totally wildly different parks there in some ways, and you need to assess your interests of your clients first and foremost in this, and that will dictate much of the rest of it. You then need to select, what are they going to do there? We say outdoor activity, but it could also be photography. It could be wildlife viewing, right? But all that's outdoors too. It doesn't have to be active, however. It could be hiking. It could be canoeing. It could be kayaking. It could be bicycling. It could be just walking. It could be seeing the small towns. And so that's another critical aspect, because it definitely affects how you will show your client a potential itinerary. The lodging is critical. You've got small towns and small cities in Montana. We have no big cities. We have a population of more or less 1 million. Largest is 1/10 of that, or 100,000. So you do have to decide that. If you go to the big cities, for us, big cities are small cities like Missoula and Billings and Bozeman. Then you get a more urban experience, and you get a lot of chain hotels. If you go to the small towns, you often don't. You get the small town experience. We definitely recommend that everybody coming to Montana needs to at least go to one really cute small town. It's, as Rita said, it was one of the highlights for her of the whole trip, is that they were based in our hometown of Red Lodge. Accommodations are critical. You have to decide, are you going to try to stay in the park or outside the park? If you do in the park, it's harder. You have to go look at their site, see what's available. You've got to decide where you're going to be in the park. Yellowstone's got a dozen lodges, and you've got to plan it so that you're traveling from one to the other in the proper way. Or do you stay outside the park? There are multiple gateway communities for Yellowstone, and there are 2 or 3 for Glacier National Park. Staying outside the park generally is less expensive, and often is less expensive for meals, and definitely has more restaurant opportunities. But staying in the park is, and frankly, you get better lodging oftentimes in your hotel room. But staying in the park is traditional and historic and rustic and Western. So very cool also. Best time to travel is critical. And again, if you go onto our website, you'll see this in more detail. So I'm giving you the overview. In general, the summer is when everybody goes, because everyone's sucked into a regular summer schedule, as I get sucked into because of my daughter being in school. It is what it is. You can go to Yellowstone, and we send people to Yellowstone, and they are in the middle of July, and they say, yeah, there seemed like there weren't that many people there. And that's important. because we take them to areas in the park where there are fewer people and yet really great things to see. But you do have to pay attention because you're going to be fighting. If you're doing the regular stuff at the regular time of day, if you're going to Old Faithful in the middle of the day and then you're hoping to eat in the Old Faithful Inn for lunch, you're going to have a wait time in July. And so we don't do that on our trips. We do other things, and we talk a little bit about that in our planning guides. Are you going to do any events and festivals? It's a great way to add in if you can get a rodeo, right? There are rodeos in Cody, Wyoming and Jackson, Wyoming every night of the week, all summer long. And there are other bigger rodeos that come in and out of the towns. There are festivals, there are other events. It's really nice. How to get there and get around is critical. We talk about this. There are really 3 main airports, but there are 4 main airports in Montana, counting Kalispell, which is for Glacier. And you pretty much have to drive, right? It's a big state. It's the great highways. It's easy to drive around, but you have to rent a car. Car rentals, as all of you know, are tight right now. And so renting early is important. If I have to give you one piece of advice, it's make sure you're planning everything as early as possible. When we can plan vacations in the fall for the next summer, it's so much easier for us to get the lodging we want and to get good prices on airfares and car rentals. So that hopefully will help you a little bit. And we're going to move on to the next topic, which is you might consider working with us instead. Now, I'm giving you this webinar because I want you to know more about Montana and Yellowstone and Glacier, and for you to be able to do this on your own. And you can do that by going to those planning guides. However, having said that, we have offerings, as you heard from Rita and Allie, that produce amazing vacations. And our whole thing is to give people amazing vacations and not very good vacations, because we want our experiences to be something they're talking about that is the highlight of their year and something they're talking about 5 and 10 and 20 years from now, and we think we can do it. We only do guided tours. We don't set up, we're not a travel agency. If you call us up and say, hey, can you help us book this hotel? We say, no, you have to go do that on your own. This is what we do. We do guided tours. Our tours are from 2 to 9 days. We have people coming in and saying, hey, we want to go longer than that, and we can do that too. We offer private and public. The public tours are outstanding because they group together individuals, couples, or families, depending on the type of tour, who don't necessarily know each other, but they have common interests. And when you're with a group like that, the end product, and all of you have probably been on these, is amazing. And I do want to say that because we do tours that are very specific and active and interesting, that we're not getting a typical bus tour crowd. We're getting a group that we find fascinating and interesting and fun. And that really works well for the public tours. The private tours are more typical for us when we're working with travel agencies, because we have an agent who says, hey, we just have a family of 4 or a group of 8 come in, and can you help us? The groups we do run are as small as 4. We don't do smaller groups. It's just not cost effective with a guide and for us to plan it. Many times we get multi-generation families. The grandparents say, hey, we want to bring our whole family. What do we do with them for this summer? And this is a great option. As you heard, we can accommodate multi-generations. We have 12 destinations in Montana, and we run both active and non-active. So when people come to us with private tours, that's one of our first questions, right? They tell us, we want to go to Yellowstone. We say, great. Do you want to do it in an active way or a non-active way? So this is sort of what we do. And go ahead, Beth. This is my daughter on the left. You can see I have her shilling for all of you. She's holding a junior ranger program and wearing a Zephyr Adventures t-shirt in Yellowstone. That on the right is actually my greater family, because I took my niece and nephew on a tour, on a family tour. Our tours are so fun. They're the best tours. They're the best vacations I take. They're the best vacations my daughter takes all year. And so I took my niece and nephew as well, just as a customer of our own tours. So we do love our family vacations, and they are a big part of what we do in Travel Montana. Go ahead, Beth. These are the itineraries we run. The Beartooth Mountains are above Red Lodge. We love this trip. It's great hiking, and it's a place people who are hikers don't know about. Glacier National Park hiking is way more difficult. They have a limited number of passes for guided hiking in the park every year. We have a public Glacier National Park hiking tour this summer. So if you come to us right now and say, I've got 2 people or 4 people that want to hike in Glacier, then we say you should really go on this tour. It's kind of the only option. We have one reserved date in September for a private tour in Glacier. If you've got a group of 8 or more, we can do that group there, first come, first serve. And Glacier for hikers is very popular. We have 2 bicycle tours, one that runs from Montana through Idaho to Washington, and one in the Flathead Valley near Glacier. We have a Montana family vacation that's also based in Red Lodge. We have a Red Lodge multi-sport vacation too that's not on this list. We have Grand Teton and Jackson multi-sport, and we run multiple trips in Yellowstone. And I just want to briefly talk about this. We do wolf watching 3 times a year. We do it in the winter, which is great for seeing the wolves because they're very present and very visible. We do it in May when the pups are brand new, and we do it in October when the pups are old enough to be playing around, and it's super fun to watch them. Winter is a great time to be in the park because there are way fewer people there. We run family tours, and we run Best of Montana tours as well. But in general, if you come to us and say, hey, I've got a family, just like Allie said, she came to us and said, hey, we have a family wanting to do a dude ranch. And, dude ranches are very specific, and they're not necessarily for everybody in the family. So when we said, well, what does your family want to do? Then we use our expertise. We give a few suggestions. She took it to them, and it was a win. So that's sort of how we often work with travel agents. Go ahead, Beth. Bison, this is winter. The reason why winter is so great is because all the big ungulates, which are the hooved animals, including elk and bison and deer, come down from the high altitudes, which get snowed in. They come down to the Lamar Valley. The predators, like wolves and mountain lion, come down to the valley to follow the prey. And everybody can see the action from the road. Yellowstone in the winter specifically, but all summer long, is the #1 place to see wolves in the wild in the entire world by a long shot. And it is an experience that some people come away with moved deeply by. And we could go on into that, and maybe we'll do a webinar on the wolf watching in Yellowstone. Go ahead, Beth. This is what we can't do. Groups fewer than 4, unescorted tours. We can customize groups when they're larger. It's hard for us to customize groups of 4. We can do small customizations. Okay, you don't want to do the river rafting. That's no problem. Okay, you want to add river rafting. That's okay too. But larger groups, we can definitely customize more easily. Otherwise, generally use our 13 preferred itineraries. Why a guided vacation? This is important for you because most people coming to you aren't looking for a guided vacation. They're looking for, and this is not just and I'm talking here about both private guided vacations and public guided vacations. Many people come to you and they say, well, we want to go to Yellowstone. Can you help us? And then you've got to book the individual parts, and they fly out there, they rent the car, and they run the whole thing. Here's why it's a nice idea to do a guided vacation, because the planning of it is difficult. This is for you if they're coming to you. This is for them if they're doing it on their own. And so you save a ton of time and reduce stress by coming with us and with a guide. Not only do we handle all the details in advance, that guide is making all the decisions with his or her clients on the spot. And so it means that, the organizer of the group, who's the one who calls up you or comes into you, is the one who is going to have to make decisions on that vacation, except for that our guide's there and can help make all those decisions with the family. And it means in the end that that family has a better vacation, is more likely to have a, oh my God, that was incredible vacation, than, yeah, it was super fun. And we're looking for the former. It's also true that it's safer to go on a vacation with us, right? Our guides are driving the vehicles. They are not going to get distracted by the wildlife and bump into the car in front of them when there's a buffalo jam in Yellowstone. They are going to be carrying bear spray on the trails. You know, it's not dangerous in Montana and the environs. It's just not very dangerous. But people think it is, and having someone there who knows what they're doing is a big positive when you're talking to people who come to you and you might suggest a guided vacation. And we're getting down there. We only have 12 minutes left. And this is for all of you then. This is a little bit about what Rita and Allie were talking about, but we do pay a commission, obviously. This is important. If you work through us, there will be a higher dollar volume on the vacation than if you do all the parts. It has to be that way because we have to make our money and we have to pay for our guide. So the cost of a guided tour is much higher per person than the cost of doing it individually as you might otherwise do. So a person might pay us $3,000 for a tour in Yellowstone, and you get 10% of that. If you're trying to book those individually, you're going to get so much less. So the reality is you have financial incentive to work with us than doing it on your own. That's exacerbated by the reality that national park lodges don't pay commission to travel agencies. Obviously, we're saving you time. Obviously, we're providing you the expertise, which is really what Allie and Rita were more angling towards when they contacted us. It's a lot less work for you. You work directly with one of us. We handle all the rest. If you want, we can also handle communications with your client. You still get the commission if they book, but a lot of times they are going to have questions and we'll be the best people to answer those. And so we're happy to work directly with them and still give you the commission. And if you want, we can even do webinars for your clients or your fellow agents. If you're in an agency that has a lot of different agents, if you're in a region and you're in a group that wants to see something like this, you think it'd be useful for them, if you've got a database where you can get at least 50 people to come on who are your potential clients who might be interested in Montana, I can do this same kind of thing and tailor to them without the actual travel agency part of it. Beth. This is again shot of the Beartooth. Go ahead, Beth. And this is my contact information. So we're going to get off the webinar slide and answer any questions that you have. I just want to say before I do this, I know some of you might just disappear and not listen to the questions. That is totally great. We will send all of you, Beth will send you all a follow-up email. She will include my email address in that. Email is a great way to work. We can definitely do phone too, but email is a perfect way to contact me first. And I can often answer a lot of the questions that way. And we're happy to work with you. We're just as happy to work with you with Zephyr Adventures and with Taste Vacation. So if you have groups wanting to do that, please visit those sites, see what we do. We have an extensive list of locations for Zephyr Adventures and a pretty good list of the top wine, beer, and food destinations around the world for Taste Vacations. I'm going to go into the Ask a Question section. I'm going to pick out the questions that are most relevant to large numbers of people. If I don't hit...
Allan, real quick, I just wanted to let people know if you had been putting questions into the chat that's over on the right side of your screen, I have been moving them over to our Ask a Question tool as well. And then also, I apologize for some people that had been and maybe are still experiencing some issues with the technology. If you can hear me, just hit refresh and it seems to be fixing the screen for everyone as well. And Allan, real quick, someone did just ask if I could put your contact information up real quick. I'll do that while you're answering the questions and then bring it back down.
Perfect. If I don't answer one of your questions, it's because it's very specific to your client or your situation, but I'll try and get through most of these. Do your guided tours include the park passes, or do clients still need to purchase them? We purchase the park passes for them. Is there a minimum amount of people for a guided trip? I did cover that, 4 people. It's just hard for a guided trip, right? We could do 2. It's gets very expensive like that, especially because it takes our planning time and our guides' time and the vehicle rental and everything else. Are any of the tours available for a client that uses a walker? Yes, we can definitely do that, because the activity level can be as little or as much as you want. You know, we would want to talk to you to consider the tour, right? So Yellowstone is an easy place for that. But even in Yellowstone, everybody's got to walk to get on the boardwalks to see the different sites. And so there is some walking, but it's generally boardwalks, and you can do all of Yellowstone on pavement or boardwalk. So yes, the answer is yes. If someone wants to drive from Glacier to Billings, is it feasible? What's the best routing between the 2 areas? So that's pretty specific. It's like a 6-hour drive from the 2. Everything in Montana is feasible to drive. It just takes a little while. And it's not feasible to fly. No one flies in between cities in Montana, really. Maybe business people do, but everybody else is there to see the state. So you're better off driving than you are doing an inter-city flight. And it's totally feasible. I would suggest for a 6-hour drive, the thing to do is to stop in between cities and stay somewhere else. Between Glacier and Billings are both Lewiston and Great Falls, both cool cities worth stopping and seeing. And Leslie responded to that through a little bit, saying the same thing that I did. And by the way, Leslie mentions the mix of 2-lane highways and freeways. I love getting off the freeways in Montana. And a lot of times 2-lane means 1 lane in each direction, right? Those are the best. Then you're not going as fast. Then you can see the scenery. Then you can stop more easily. And when you're stopping, you're pulling off on a side road. It's the best way to see Montana is to stay off the interstates, really. And you need to plan it like that. We do drive the interstates, obviously, all the time, but we love the side roads. I have never seen the TV show Beth Dutton. We're more into the actual national park Yellowstone than the TV show. So I don't know anything about Beth Dutton or the TV show. I have a family driving through Yellowstone on their way out west to see family. 1 or 2 days in Yellowstone. I mean, yeah, there are the hot spots, right? My suggestion would be do a combination of the hot spots and the non-hot spots. And this part is critical. A non-hot spot, I think one of the coolest things there is to see the wildlife. And wildlife, as many of you hopefully know, comes out at dawn and at dusk. Those are the best times to see wildlife. So even though kids don't want to be up at 6 a.m., it's worth considering. And for kids, I would probably suggest the evening one, right? But remember, in the middle of the summer, it might not be dusk until 8 p.m. We, on our tours in Yellowstone, always include a wildlife drive in the morning or in the evening, or if people are into the wildlife, both. And it's worth it. And there are 2 places for that. One's the Lamar Valley, and one is the Hayden Valley, which is south of the area that's called Canyon. And so what I would suggest is do the highlights and then do 1 day where you stay in Canyon for dinner, and you go to the museum there and the visitor center, and then you hang out a little bit and go after dinner in the early evening to the Hayden Valley and drive up and down it so that you'll have a better shot of seeing elk and grizzly bear, and you'll see bison all over anyway, right from your car. Do you book wolf tracking trips? So we book wolf wildlife watching trips. Yes, we have 3 public ones a year, and we can do private ones depending on the group size. On our public ones, we use a wolf biologist, and it really adds a ton. On those, we walk off the roads and we go to the original acclimatization pen where 3 of the wolves were put and then released from in 1995. And we learn all about that entire process, which is fascinating. We go to an old, now unused wolf den. So yes, in terms of tracking wolves, in the wintertime, you don't have to track them because you see them from the side of the road. So you can see wolves. Every tour we run, we see wolves in Yellowstone because they're hanging out and we can see them, and we bring scopes with us, spotting scopes. What we don't do is go in there and try and track wolves, which would be very difficult in the summer, but in the wintertime you could easily do, but you really don't need to because they're right there on the side of the road, and we go see the cool stuff anyway. So we do see the wolves like that. I hope that answered that question. Do you know the exact date this month that Going to the Sun reservations will open? It's February. I don't know.
It's actually March 2nd.
March 2nd. All right. After February. What if you have a rental? How do you register that car? I'm not sure what that means, to be honest. Beth, do you have an idea what that might mean?
I think it has to do with Glacier National Park registration.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You just have to go onto their website, and if you go to the Glacier National Park website, there'll be a link for it'll be front and center. It'll tell you all about this because this is big news there, and it'll tell you how to register to get a pass. I think the question is then, do you have to know the license plate of the car? I don't know, to be honest. That's a good question. I would assume not. I would assume it's going to go based on you and not the car. That's a great question. We're going to look into that and find out. What's your commission rate to agents? 10%. If someone can't hike, are there driving sites in the parks? Yes, definitely. Yellowstone more than Glacier. But Glacier, you can do it too. You can get up, you can get out at all the spots. Yellowstone has so much more than Glacier for a non-hiker. How intense are the hiking tours? All of our tours worldwide that are active, most of those are with Zephyr Adventures, accommodate multiple ability levels. And we do this in various ways. The primary way is we have multiple activity options every day. So for our hiking tours in Montana, they are accommodating of different ability levels. We will have 2 route options. They'll be on the same trail. One will go farther and perhaps go a little higher than the easier option. Having said that, most of the people that go on a hiking tour are used to hiking. So if they're going to need to be able to do 4 miles on elevation that does go up a bit, but it's not peak bagging like Colorado. And so I would say that our hiking tours are moderate with the option to make them more difficult. The active wolf tours are more akin to walking tours. We do hikes there, but they're all very moderate because our main focus there is on the wolves. How about snowmobile? It says showmobile. I'm sure that says snowmobile tours. We don't do snowmobile tours. We're not that into snowmobiles. Snowmobiles are very famous in Yellowstone National Park. To be honest, it's not the appropriate place for snowmobiles. They make a ton of noise. That noise is heard by not only other users of the park, but by animals. And famously, snowmobiles have been documented to chase bison and other animals. So it's just not the best way. When we go into the park in wintertime, we use cross-country skis and snowshoes, and we're way more likely to see wildlife that's behaving naturally than you are on a snowmobile. There are also snow coach tours, and we do make use of snow coaches to get into the park in areas that are closed to vehicles in the wintertime, it's another great reason why winter is an excellent time to go to Yellowstone, because you can get to places where the only way to get there is by snowmobile or snow coach, and there are fewer people there. Maximum size recommended to get the best group rate for hiking trip without passing the threshold of larger vehicle. Multi-stop 7-day trip with the same group traveling together. So with us, there are two considerations. First of all, any worry about a larger vehicle is not there, because our guides are pros at driving the larger vehicles, and renting them is no more difficult than renting an SUV, really. You have to do it a little earlier. But there are two maxes that you have to pay attention in Montana. One is the vehicle size. And, you might or might not know this, but this is what we do. A 12-passenger vehicle, we put 11 people in. A 15-passenger in, we'd put no more than 14 in. That's one maximum. You also have maximums in the parks and in the national forests for guided groups. So for us, we also have maximums that are right in that same 12 range for Yellowstone, for the Beartooth Mountains, for Glacier. So, and the other thing to think about is getting the best experience as a group. If we're with you, then when we're getting to a group size of about 9, we add a second guide. When we add a second guide, it changes the dynamics totally, because we can split the group up very effectively. And we do that not only for activities, but sometimes even for meals. One guide will take the kids and go to pizza or do a pool party, and the other guide will take the adults and go have a glass of wine at a nicer restaurant. If you're on your own with a group of 12, obviously you all know that the dynamics of family decision-making get complicated at that point. So I'm not quite sure if you're asking for a guided, escorted, or unguided tour. We don't offer travel agent rates other than the 10% off. We don't have comped tours, because what we do is so extensive, right? We're not running just a day tour where we can add you on to a group. And so that's the discount that travel agents get, is 10% with us. Do all 3 companies have the same requirements for vax or COVID tests? Yes. So public tours are requiring vax, private tours are vax or COVID tests. And we've had very, very little pushback, even from travel agencies, where the travel agent and her customers were not into the vaccines. When we explained the policy, it was not a problem. We also help people explain exactly where they're going to get it. They can do a home PCR test. It hasn't been a problem with us at all. How big are your public tours? They average in Montana about 12 people. We generally are not taking groups larger than 16 anywhere, and many of our tours have a max of around 12 for the destination location because of permitting or van size. Are there months to avoid due to snowfall? So with snowfall, the best time of year to go is in February or very early March. And the reason is you have more snow on the ground, and so doing cross-country skiing and snowshoeing is better, and the weather tends to be better too. It's not as cold in February and March as it is in the bitterest winter months of December and January, for example. So if you're looking for a winter experience, we like February the best and early March. If you're not looking for a winter experience, yes, you have to pay attention to snowfall, specifically on the passes. So the 2 big passes to pay attention to are the Beartooth Pass, which runs from Red Lodge to Yellowstone, and is a fantastic experience, even for people driving their own vehicle over. You get up to 10,000 feet, and you're not doing that elsewhere in Montana unless you're mountain climbing, really. So it's well worth doing, but it generally is open from Memorial Day to mid-October. It's too packed in with snow other months. Same with going to the Sun Road in Glacier. It sometimes opens later than that. It might not be open until late June or early July. And so you don't really want to plan a glacier trip unless you know what you're doing. You can go in from the west side, skip the top, go in from the east side, but it takes a little bit more driving and organizing. So going to Glacier in non-summer months is more complicated, but a great time to be there because there are fewer people there. Are our public tours guaranteed departures? They are not, but they're pretty much guaranteed early on in the year. So we have a system where we give our alumni a discount if they book early on by October of the preceding year. And for our public tours, we get over 50% of our bookings already by October of the previous year. So we have this really great system where we're canceling most of our tours we're going to cancel on November 1st. So after that date, almost all of our public tours are running. We don't do any Native American tours, and I would love to. There is a ton to see here and to learn here, and we don't do it yet, in part because we're not quite sure if there's enough of a demand for that. If there were, we would do it. So if you have other questions or comments for us or suggestions, boy, just make sure you let us know here in the chat, but also by sending Beth an email when she sends one out to you, or to me when she sends you my email address. We would love to hear from you. We didn't used to work that much with travel agencies because, frankly, most travel agencies aren't doing active tours that much. And for us, in Montana, it's a much bigger, more important part of what we do. So we appreciate your time. I went over by 9 minutes, but I only did that because of all your Q&A. I hope that's acceptable. And we appreciate you being on here. We look forward to working with you and to being in touch. Thank you very much.